Okay, good morning, afternoon, or night, evening, right? Don't know exactly the time you will be watching this video. This recorded class, right? Our last recorded class. Um, our class for today's lesson will be about sight interpreting or interpretation, right? You can find this information as well as sight translation because both are linked. So it's very important you can take it into account, right? If you want to become good interpreters or translators, maybe you would be needing this information, right? If you want to be academic interpreters or translators, whatever, right? What you want to be in this area, it's okay. And I hope so that maybe one of you or some of you can discover the beauty of interpretation. Because in my case, I want to be very honest with you. I will be, as I said before, remember the last Saturday, I told you this one, right? I will be working in interpretation. So the next week, right, I will be an interpreter. And but maybe this area of linguistic is not what I like the most, right? But how we can do it because we are linguistics at the end, right? We can do it. Guys, let's continue with our class. Let me see. So it says this one, side interpreting, as you can see. But before this one, it is just a time for making a little post to review or feedback, right? The previous lessons. I want you to please put in your mind the previous lessons. Ah, by the way, parenthesis, I will be providing your scores to your new teachers the next week, right? I will be sending to him and to the coordinator your scores or your grades. Okay, nice. So let's continue. Remember that we were talking about this, right? Simultaneous and consecutive interpretation. You were working on it, you were watching some videos, you were asking some questions, and we were discussing, right, the idea about this simultaneous and consecutive. And for the two ones, you say, well, I prefer the second one because in the previous one, I need to be like speaking at the same time. But in the second one, I can make some pauses, right, or taking notes, and then I can speak, right, or transmit the ideas to the audience or the person in front of the speech. For example, in this case, right, simultaneous. When I was student like you, right, I remember that I served for the university as an interpreter, and I was working in simultaneous interpretation. Well, one of your classmates explained the previous class, remember, that he was working as interpreter in a medical campaign. That's pretty beautiful. If you had that opportunity to do it because in that way I was there. Because when you are there, you can discover what I'm trying to say to you, right? About this area of linguistics. Remember that if you study interpretation, literature, grammar, whatever you are studying, remember is every area that you have been and you are now studying is part of linguistics. So this part of the language is pretty interesting and is not very well worked or deep right deeply worked by many people. Exactly, I don't know right now professional that says or teacher that says uh, I am working as interpreter or translator. No, I don't know. I don't know any person right now. And that's why I say that if you can do it right. If you want to have an agency, nice. I would be visiting for sure to see, right? So, but I think that you can do it. It's not a big deal. Sometimes we believe that this is very complicated because maybe because we are not in contact with native speakers or we're not practicing our English every single day. For many cases, right? But when you dare to do it, you are like, oh, this is not a big deal. I can do it. I can understand. What I like the most about interpretation is that the pure effort that you have to improve your listening. When you are working in this area, you are improving your listening properly. You are understanding, right? Every word. And then you are understanding pronunciation, intuition, um, rising and falling intonation. Let me see what stresses, right? And accents, eyelets, dialects, and many things. You are recognizing every pattern to the language, linked to the language. So this is why I say that interpretation is pretty beautiful. But if you like it, right? If you ask me, remember you asked me, right? I said I like it, but this is not what I prefer the most. But very funny because I will be working in interpretation the next week, right? Very funny. So continue. Whisper, remember, whisper is about saying something, whisper to someone, maybe behind him or her, to directly to the ear. That's it, right? Nice, that's it. But you have to do it properly, neat, let me see, um, correct. Because you said the last time, I prefer whisper because no one will be listening to me. Nice. It's okay, right? If you do it in that way, nice, it's okay. But whisper is like saying something for not interrupting someone else, right? At the end, you are interrupting someone besides, right? Or the ones you have among of you. I think I don't like this one, but it's very well used for political. Um, remember that we watched a video about this, right? In which Donald Trump appeared in that video in some presidents from Asia. I remember I played that video and you were watching, right? This reference. So right now we will be working this one, excite translation or interpretation because they're very linked. It says side translation transform a written message into a spoken language. They are very linked, right? They are together. Interpreting in this case, translation are linked together in this method. It involved reading a text silently in the source of language and then speaking it in the target language. This is side translation. It's like if you are right now reading it, side translation transform written language into spoken language. La traducción a primera vista o vista transforma el mensaje escrito en un mensaje hablado. That's it. And I know that you are practicing, right? I think every day practicing this. You start reading a text, right? When you are, for example, taking a diagnostic test or something, you are like, in suddenly you are speaking in your own target language. You read it in English or trying to read it in Spanish. Pretty common, I think. And not I think, I know because I had performed this activity, right? Many cases. Well, every single day, even though a teacher like the one you have in university or including me, right? We are practicing the same. Remember, we're not native speakers. We are um, studying or we speak English as a second language. So at the end, we practice this side translation every single day because we are in this area, we are in this field of study. Well, the same competency to what then you have this one. I like it because it says when an interpreter is asked to cite translate in court, find yourself in a court. It's very legal, right? You are there and you are like, oh, I'm in the court. I will be interpreting the language. But it says in here, it will likely involve a witness statement or other document written in a language that is spoken in court proceedings. Let's think about it. Someone says, you will be interpreter? Yes. So you will be, for example, having something here or signing something, right? In this case, to proceed to the interpretation or translation, giving your word, right, as proof. I am proving that I will be interpreting or translating what is accurately correct. That's it. And if you maybe commit a mistake or say something which is not part of the interpretation, you will be in jail or in parents. This is very delicate. The court's interpreter is asked to read it in English for a report, and the translation will be recorded. Think about it. You will be recorded. You are working in this area, right? I think this is very, as I said before, right? Very tight. And we saw some costs or salaries, right, in the US. They are not. I think they are very well paid because you can earn more than $20 per hour, 21 or $25 per hour for speaking English and Spanish. That's okay, I think. But in the US, right? In here in our country, we spoke about this, right? And we discovered that it's not very well paid. And I think that the problem is that many companies or institutions, they say this, right? This is something that is not regulated in our country, and I think that maybe one day someone can work on it. But if you see the newspapers or some announcements, right, or ads on the internet, you will be discovering that many companies or institutions says we are looking for a person that can be our representative for a business or any cultural event or something, right? And they say English is a must. They are not like hiring a teacher, they are hiring a person that speak English, but they say speaking English or English is a must. So I start thinking, so you need a person that can work, maybe making some deals, right, or making some arrangements or performing some activities, but at the same time this person needs to speak English. Yes. Why? It is because many people from abroad, for example, US or United Kingdom, are coming to our country, and this person who is working in one area in the company or institution can be our translator or interpreter at the same time. So the same person is working for the both, right? Doing two activities. This is why in our country, it is not because we don't need interpreters or translators in our country. It is because we are accustomed to work a lot, right? A lot for doing many things, not only one thing. We are accustomed to say it's okay. This pay the bills, and that's it, right? You can be a teacher and a translator, and no one will be paying to you. I have lived this in my institution, right? I have lived it in the school and working. I have lived this because um let me see, you're working as a teacher and suddenly a person from Canada visits our school and and that person says, I am visiting the school to explain didactic things, right, or materials or whatever. And quickly my boss has told me, right, Jonathan, come to our office because you will be interpreting conversation. I have to do it because it's part of my job, right? But I'm not an interpreter. It says, I'm not an interpreter, I'm a teacher. But I have to be there, right? Very common in this country. But in the US, it's pretty different. In the US, they have classified the jobs, or not only in the US, in Europe or Canada or any other sophisticated country, they have classified the jobs. That's why, right? Well, I'm not criticizing. I am just giving my point of view about this technique. Sight interpretation or translation is cross-modal activity and a hybrid form of translation and interpreting. Think about it because I have already explained this, right? I have already mentioned this, that in this linguistic area, both things are linked, right? Interpreting and translation in sight. Sorry for it. The information is received by reading, whereas the output is produced either in oral form or sign language. As I said before, right? You need to sign. You need to prove that the information you are giving to the court, the judge, um, the lawyer, or a doctor. or it's like the correct one. I remember when I was maybe in your age, 22, 23, I don't remember very well. I remember that one thing in my life, maybe 10 years ago, I remember very well. I was looked for doing something like this. I was using side translation because a doctor told me, right, I need your help. Huh? I have a person in my office right now in my clinic, and this person says that he's coming from the US, but he doesn't know English. Huh? And he's a citizen from the US. Nice. What can I do, right? I need you to come here to read the information that this person is bringing to my clinic. Was the healthcare, something about healthcare. And can you please read it and say it in Spanish? Because if you do it, I can write. I mean the doctor, right? And this person will pay to you. I did it in 5 minutes. And this person, the one who come to US, says, okay, take $20. That day I was very happy because I was studying in the university. And I said, oh, $20 for me, right? Just for reading the information and saying in Spanish. I used side translation that day. So you got it. But this is not something that happens every day. Very special because my friends, my relatives, my wife, for example, I can be in any restaurant. My wife says, pay attention to that sum, right? In English, right? Say in Spanish. I want to look for that. Okay. Okay, that song says this. Okay, you got it? No one will be paying to you to do that, right? We're like dictionaries in many cases. So let me see. Essential needs for a site interpretation frequently occur in public services. As I said before, right? In courts, schools, offices, governmental or governmental agencies, and some. Okay, the logical question to this one is this. I like this one. It says the cognitive processes are required, or what cognitive processes are required to perform site interpretation, and in what context. We already mentioned to this one that this is very used in public services or in private services as well, and you need to get proofs about the interpretation that you are doing or translation that you are doing. The cognitive processes that are included here are linguistic processes because you are using syntactical concepts or the spoken structure sentences to transmit the ideas properly. This is why when you are interpreting, when you need an interpretation or a translation, you need a professional do it. Not a person who is like just coming from the US and says, I am coming from the US. Do you have any license to do it? No, you cannot do it. But I know English, but you can't because you are not a professional. And we need linguistics aspect or cognitive processes improves, right, about the translations or interpretations. Okay, now we will be watching this video about this. Wait a minute. Okay, just wait a minute. Just a minute. I like it. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, what I wanted to tell you is that you have chronic hepatitis B, and this is an infection in your blood that you're going to have for a long time, if not your whole life.
Señor González, lo que le quiero decir es que usted tiene hepatitis B y es crónica y es una enfermedad que va a tener a largo plazo, si no es que la va a tener por toda la vida.
And it's a virus that's not easily treatable. Now, we have certain categories of people that we will give treatment to.
Y es una enfermedad que no se puede necesariamente dar tratamientos. Hay ciertas categorías donde sí se le puede implementar cierto tipo de tratamientos.
But it can be complicated, and so it's useful for you to have a lot of information about it.
Pero puede ser complicado y le va a ayudar muchísimo a usted a entender si tiene más información sobre
Now,
eso.
I've got a pamphlet with lots of information that's well produced. Unfortunately, we've given away all of our Spanish versions of it, but I have one with some English in it, and I'm going to have your interpreter translate this for you so that you can get a sense for what the background information
Tengo
is.
mucha información, lamentablemente no tenemos una copia en español, ya dimos la última copia, pero tenemos aquí la intérprete, le puede dar la información, se la puede traducir al español. La intérprete tiene que hablar con el médico. So, doctor, unfortunately, unfortunately, I won't be able to do a side translation of this document. It has too many pages, and I would have to spend too much time going over each and every page, restructure it, because Spanish and English are structured differently. So it would be best suited if it would be just a one-page document that I could sight interpret.
Yeah, I don't have a one-page document, so how's he supposed to get this information?
How about for now, if you could please give him a summary, and then the interpreter will render that for him in Spanish, and then I'll work with management to try to get this document translated for you and sent to you electronically, so you always have a copy.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you so much for watching this video, right? I know that you have understood this part or this third method. And now, guys, it's time to say goodbye, right, to you. Thank you for staying there, right, with me, for por estas clases que hemos tenido. Así que ha sido un gusto para mí, ¿verdad? Poderlos haber tenido, aunque sean unas clases en quinto año, y solamente desearles que sigan dando lo mejor de ustedes, estudien mucho, que pueden buscar la excelencia. Tal vez nunca vamos a ser perfectos, pero sí tratar de buscar ser excelentes en lo que hagamos. Pues estudien mucho, ¿verdad? Inglés, pónganle ganas, y pues, that's it, right? Thank you very much for watching this video. This is the last one. Y pues el maestro que van a tener es muy bueno. Así que vemos más adelante. Cuídense.